Hey guys, Shane from WowBBQ here, and today I'm going to show you how to cook a delicious pulled lamb cooked on a rotisserie over charcoal on the Weber Master Touch here. And we're going to start by making a really lovely aromatic spice rub, bone it out, marinate it. We'll make some flatbreads and a little bit of a aubergine Babaganoush, and it's going to be absolutely delicious. Really simple process. Takes a little bit of time, but it's well worth it in the end. So first thing we want to do is go ahead and move our lamb out of the way, and I'm going to knock up my spice rub really quick, which is super easy. We're going to start with something that's called an SPG. It is the basis I use for every barbecue rub I make, and it is basically 2 parts salt, 1 part pepper, and then 2 parts garlic granules. It's really key to make sure and use dried garlic. If you use fresh garlic, there's a lot of oils and sugars that can burn, especially on these longer cooks. This is going to take about 3 hours, so we want to avoid anything that's going to burn and turn a little bit acrid in that time. So same amount of garlic as salt. And when you're talking more traditional American style barbecue from like Texas style brisket and things like that, that is all I would use to season it. It's not too overpowering. It lets the smoky flavor pair with the meat beautifully. But we're going for more Middle Eastern vibe on this, so we're going to go ahead and pump it up a little bit with 1 part cinnamon, 1 part onion granules, some oregano, cumin and coriander. I like to go quite heavy on the coriander, so I'm going to add 2 parts of that, and then 2 parts cumin. And lastly, this is one of my favorites with lamb, is some fennel seeds. Then just give it a little bit of a bash up. I've got a mix of whole and ground spices here, so it won't take too long to grind up. And that's good. So I'm going to leave that and set it aside while I go ahead and bone this lamb out. The next step is to bone out our lamb shoulder. By all means, you can get them from the shop boned and rolled. That has just taken 1 step away from you, so by all means go for that. There's only the shoulder blade in here that we need to remove. And the reason we want to bone it out is it's going to give us a lot more surface area that we can massage all that spice rub into. So when it comes to shredding later, we know that all that flavor is going to be permeated nice and evenly throughout the joint, as opposed to just on the surface. Also, because I'm sticking it on a rotisserie, it can become a little bit of a faff if you're trying to get the spikes from the spit to maneuver around the bone. So all you got to do, we got the little joint bone sticking out here. It comes in. There's a ball socket there, and then it comes out to the blade. So we'll just follow that in with the very tip of our knife and expose that ball joint. And you can just gently use the tip of your knife. This knife, you know, might be a bit big for most people. A paring knife is just as easy, if not more so. I just forgot to pack mine today. Don't be afraid to go ahead and use your hand and just feel around where the bone is, because you don't want to take big, massive gouges out of the meat if you don't have to. So just follow right along the edge of the bone there, and then slowly tip the bone up. And it'll show you the other side, and you can just drag your knife along very edge, working slowly. Don't rush it. If you go too fast, you might nick yourself, or even more so, you'll pierce the meat and you'll have a harder time tricing it up when you want to get it on the spit. So we've got nearly all the way through that side. I'm going to go ahead and flip it over and do the same thing this side, because we do have there's a slight little hook on this side of the shoulder blade that kind of holds a little nugget of meat on in it. It faces this way, so if we come at it this angle, you'll be able to get your knife over it, almost like a little bike jump, really. You'll see what I mean when I get it out. Okay, and see, that's what I mean. So you can see what I mean here. This bone kind of slightly hooks over this way, so if you come at it from the top angle, it's a lot easier to guide your knife over the top than into this way. You'll constantly keep running the blade into this bit of bone, which can blunt your knife, and it just makes the job a lot more long-winded. Right, so now that we got that butter flied out, let's go ahead and get our spice rub on it. Don't be shy with the spice rub. It does mellow out as it's cooking. And you want to make sure and get every little bit of surface with some seasoning on it. Nice. So now we can go ahead and trice this up. Got my butcher's twine here, and when we start tricing up, you want to make sure and have the fat side down, because that's going to become the outside of our rolled joint. And you just want to make sure and get it right in the middle of your joint. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rolling action here. And if you start in the middle, you can slowly kind of work your tension out to give it more of an even size and shape. Whereas I always find if I start at one end and work my way over, you end up with one side that's really tight and small, and then the other side is kind of a bit too fat and kind of wobbly. It can be a little bit tricky to keep that tension consistently dispersed throughout the joint. Okay, so I went from the middle over to the fattest side, and now I'm going to go ahead and go over to the leaner side here. It's not really the end of the world if it's kind of a wonky shape, but you do get more of a consistent cook if you have a more consistently shaped joint on each side. I'm just going to tuck this little flappy bit on the end, tuck it inside. Okay, now we're ready to go ahead and pop it onto the spit. Right, so our spit has these two little forks, and they're held on with these little wing nuts. So I'm just going to remove one of them. And then the next thing you want to do is make sure the blunt end is what you have down on the base here, and then you have the sharp end up. And then you can just slide your joint on down like so. You don't really have to worry about these forks sort of piercing too deep into the meat. They're mostly there to help it stabilize. Otherwise, what can happen is, as it's rotating, the spit can rotate, and then whatever the heaviest part of the joint is will just kind of stay sat at the bottom, and the spit is spinning loosely inside. So you want to get them just inside a little bit, but they are quite wide, so don't stress too much if they're kind of poking out on some bits. And then stick this from the top down. And then the key thing is you want to get it cinched up really tight on the end here. And now what we're going to do is we want to make sure and balance it. So we have these two little notches here, which is what's going to sit in the cradle of the lid. So we want to move our joint to the middle of this bit. So that feels pretty balanced to me. I'm happy with that. I'm going to be using the Weber briquettes. Just going to put 3/4 in my chimney starter. Then use some Weber fire lighters to light them. I usually stick about 3 in the bottom, and you just take a lighter to the corner and then pop your chimney starter on top, and we'll come back in about 10 to 15 minutes and it'll be ready to dump out. Alright, so while we're waiting for our charcoal to light, now's a good time to mix up our dough. So I've just got some warm water in here, about 300 ml, and then 1 sachet of yeast, 8 grams. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add 400 grams of flour and a little bit of salt. If you have a mixer, by all means, do that. It's a lot easier than this. Less messy, but we're outdoorsy folk. We're not afraid of getting our hands dirty, are we? So I'm just going to mix it up with my hands till it comes together. Might need a smidge more flour. Just one of those things. A lot of flours do have slightly different moisture content, so might go ahead and add a couple more tablespoons of this, because this one's quite sticky. And then I'll set that aside for a couple hours. This is ready to dump out, and I'm just going to do it in one motion into our baskets. Straight into the baskets like that. And then at this point, I like to just sort of redistribute it so the baskets look relatively evenly full. And then I'll stick one on one side and one on the other. Now the next thing we want to do is go ahead and pop a drip pan underneath. So I'm just going to use the one I had my flour in earlier. So let's go ahead and get our rotisserie ring in. And I've got my motor already plugged in on the side here, and I'll grab my spit now. Your sharp end is meant to go into the motor itself. Switch it on, and that is spinning now. That's working beautifully. We can go ahead and shut the lid on that. Next step, you want to make sure that your air vent is evenly spaced between the two baskets. So as our heat rises, it's going to come up to the lid and come out that way with an even draw from each pile of coals. If you have it off to one side like this, you'll get a little bit of a wind tunnel this side, and the charcoal on this side of the grill will end up burning out quicker than the charcoal on this side of the grill. So this will give us a more even heat distribution. Okay, so the next step we're going to do is go ahead and roast our aubergines. We're going to stick them straight in the coals. You just want to give them a few little pierces. You can use a knife. I'll just have my probe handy. And that's going to allow this steam to come out. I have had it before where I forgot to pierce them, and you leave them in, and all of a sudden you just hear a big explosion noise, and you go in and there's just aubergines smeared all over the inside of your grill. So just give them a few little pops, and then right on top of the coals. So I do want to put the aubergines on at the start of the cook, because as that charcoal burns on, the temp comes less and less. And I have had it where I've put them later in the cook and they don't quite cook all the way through, because we want them to really properly steam in their skins and become really nice and soft and squidgy. So they just go straight on top of the coals like that, and we'll leave them for about 20 minutes, come back, rotate them, and it'll probably take about 30 to 40 minutes all in all before they're ready to come off. So we've just got our lamb on, and that's going to cook for about 2.5 to 3 hours. What I'm looking for is a combination of texture and internal temperature. I want it to be a minimum of 88 degrees, but also you should be able to stick a probe in or a knife or fork and kind of slightly pull the meat away a little bit. The key thing that happens at 88 degrees is all that fat and connective tissue starts to render out, and all that collagen that can be quite rubbery and chewy starts to transform into gelatin, and it melts away into the meat instead of having a very chewy, defined layer of the collagen and then another layer of meat. They sort of melt into each other a little bit more at around 88 degrees. And in a perfect world, you can take it up to 95, 97. If you're really wanting like fall apart, take it up to 99 degrees. One of the beauties of a rotisserie is that it allows you to get to those higher internal temperatures that are more associated with low and slow cooking, but much, much quicker. If we were just roasting this straight on the cooking grate itself, we're probably looking more at like 6 hours cook time. Whereas because we have the rotisserie, it's constantly moving the meat, constantly basting it. You don't have to worry about any one section of the meat facing the charcoal too long and drying out. It just redistributes that heat very quickly throughout the joint, so it cooks much, much quicker. Okay, let's have a look. You can see our lamb is looking lovely and starting to roast, and our aubergines are ready to turn. So it's nice and charred one side, and then the other side still looks a little bit raw. So I'm just going to flip them over, and on the second side, they take a lot less time, probably more like 5 to 10 minutes. So we'll come back in a little bit and take those off. Okay, so our aubergines should be ready to take off now. You can see that's really nice and soft, falling apart. I'll just leave them in here to cool down. So this is what we're after, that really nice soft cooked flesh in the middle there. And we'll scrape all the char off, mix it in with a little bit of tahini, lemon juice, and some salt, and they're good to go. Okay, so it's been about 2.5 hours, a little bit longer, and I reckon our lamb is pretty close to done. I can stick my probe in and pull the meat a bit so it's the right texture. Let's check the temperature on it. I reckon it's probably around about 95. 94, 95, spot on. Okay, so our aubergines are nice and cool now. Let's go ahead and peel all the skin off of them. Just into the bowl here. We're going to sort of pick all the char off the outside of most of it. I love the texture of aubergine when it's gone this sort of squidgy, soft texture. Just run the knife through it a little smidge. And then a squeeze of lemon juice. And then a little bit of tahini going in there. We'll give that a little stir up when we serve it. Let's go ahead and get our lamb off. Just pop it here to rest for a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and take my rotisserie off. and my drip pan out. And we want to push our charcoal baskets together because we're going to build up our fire to do our flatbreads really quick. We're going to go ahead and pop a griddle in the circular insert here while we go ahead and roll out our flatbreads. Just going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on the work surface here. Give it a good roll. And then I'm not going to roll it out too thin, because I want to keep some air bubbles into it. But I also don't want it too thick, because then it just kind of becomes doughy and crunchy on the outside. I just like to use my fingers like that to sort of stipple it out to about the size you want. Just think sort of normal sort of pita bread size. Just directly into our lamb fat. And look at all that flavor that flatbread is picked up. So we're just going to go ahead and pop it straight on the plancha like so. All right, feels like it's ready to flip. So there we go, nice. As you can see, it's a little bit of a fry bread. We've got some nice little meaty bits that were mixed in with the fat from the pan there. This is going to be lush. Nice and bubbly. Hot on. Now, go ahead and add some of that honey just around the edge. And then our pomegranate juice. And like I said, all that starch from the flatbread and that little bit of dripping from our lamb fat is going to incorporate in this and make it a lot richer and help thicken it up a bit as well. Let's go ahead and take our lamb off the spit. All you got to do is undo these wing nuts, and now that we've let it rest, it's cooled down a lot. You do want to make sure you're not going in and grabbing it while it's too hot. And you can hear this has really nice crispy skin. So go ahead and just pull it apart, and that's really nice soft. You can just pull it apart by, oh, that skin is so nice. And we've got nice smoke ring building up on here as well. Let's go ahead and have a look at our pomegranate sauce. Okay, so our sauce is reduced down enough. So I'm going to go ahead, bring it over, and we're just going to pop our lamb straight into the pan to keep it nice and hot. This is our honey pomegranate glaze. Let's just go ahead and get this in there. So I'm going to go ahead and start building up our flatbreads here. So I'm going to cut the pomegranate in half. Lamb shoulder is just about one of the only affordable cuts of lamb left these days, so it's a really nice way to show off that economy cut, but as a proper true centerpiece to the dish. A few torn mint leaves here and there. Go ahead and add in our Babaganoush onto the flatbread. That's our charred smoked aubergine dip with the tahini and lemon in it. And this is, I tell you, like the best kebab you never had. You're not getting that at the kebab shop. Okay. A little bit more mint. A little bit more pomegranate. Right, and that is our aromatic lamb shoulder that's been cooked for about 3 hours using the rotisserie on the Weber kettle. We've got our charred aubergine dip on our lamb fat flatbreads, the rotisserie lamb on top, along with the pomegranate glaze. Absolutely delicious. I cannot wait to get stuck into this. Oh man, that was really, really good.